Okay, we're rolling. Okay, so as you guys know, I am currently in boot camp. I am now in my 8th week of boot camp, which means that I have about 5.5 weeks left. I have about 5 or 6 weeks left. It's been such a journey. I'm really excited about the phase I'm on right now, which is senior phase. It's a completely different monster than it was in the first phase of this intensive part of my boot camp. It's so different, but we will get into that. Today I wanted to answer a lot of the questions that you all asked on Instagram and on here on YouTube about my process. I've been telling you guys that I'm going to do this Q&A for weeks now, and I'm just now getting the chance to do it. So I have about 30 minutes before I have to log on for class. So I wanted to film this in this time so that I can get it up and out to you guys. So let's get started. So let's get right into it. The first question is, why did I decide on boot camp and which boot camp am I attending? So I've talked about this in a couple of other videos, but the gist of it is just that I got to a point in freelancing and just in my learning journey that I knew that I was going to need more assistance and more help than I could provide myself as a self-taught coder. I wanted to be able to provide more services to my freelance clients, but also wanted, didn't want that process of learning to take forever, because anyone who has freelanced knows that it's a lot. You're not just building projects for other people, but you're also keeping up with business processes and things like that, and that can be really difficult to balance those things with your learning process and journey. And the back end was something that was really intimidating to me. I didn't know where to start, and because with back end, there's so many ways that you can kind of go and take to accomplish the same thing. I really just didn't know where to start, and I wanted to kind of see if learning in a structured program was right for me. And I was right. I'm glad I made the decision. I am currently at Full Stack Academy, which is, I really enjoy the program. I really love the structure of it. The next question is, what did I do to prepare? How demanding is it? And how satisfied am I with the program? Okay, so to prepare, actually Full Stack Academy has on their website a pre-bootcamp course that you could take for free online, and that took me a couple of weeks to go through. You really learn the basics of JavaScript, like all of the basic elements that make JavaScript the object-oriented language that it is, and you kind of basically start off with the basics of data structure and algorithm type problem solving, and that was really helpful. That was I learned a lot from that course, and then the application process, you actually have like a bit of a technical element to your interview, so they ask you questions on that. Once you get in, I complete a 4-week program that is called Foundations. It's self-paced, online, and I just had to kind of, similarly to that pre-course, had to just take it, complete all of the problems, turn in the assignments, and that was kind of it for that. In general, it was okay. I didn't love it because it was like you're getting thrown a ton of information, but like you're working by yourself. So it's not like how it was when I joined the intensive part of the program. How demanding is it? I would say this is probably true for most boot camps. You really can't have like a ton going on outside of boot camp. It definitely was an adjustment for me in the beginning because, you know, I was waking up early, having to use the time I had in the morning to read the pre-work and like prep my notes for lectures, and then, you know, you jump right into lecture, and then you are in class for like 8 hours with a 1 hour lunch break, and then after that you probably have homework, or, you know, want to look over and study some of the topics that we went over, because we were learning in the first phase, which is called junior phase, we were learning a new technology every single day. So it's very demanding, and it's definitely something that if you're going to do it, I would just suggest you dropping most of the other things in your life and just focus on boot camp. Which, I mean, this is honestly why as a content creator, I haven't been very consistent and haven't been getting a lot of stuff out as much as I used to, because this is my priority. So okay, how much knowledge would you say you need before attending? This is a really good question, because I know that this changes depending on the program that you are attending. For my program, like I said, I had to know like the basics of JavaScript. I had to know and understand the language, and I had to be able to use it, not just understand the language, but also be able to use it to solve problems before I got in. Which I know I have a friend who's in a boot camp right now, and she was a complete beginner, and her boot camp started at a different point than my boot camp started. So like when she started, her first classes were just going over the basics of everything, learning JavaScript, learning the basics of the language and things like that, where I had to start on that point where I already knew those things, and we jumped right into, okay, here's how we're putting all these things together. Here's how you incorporate the back end, all of that. So it really just depends on where you are in your journey. If you are someone that feels like you would rather start from the beginning, definitely look for a program that does that. This bootcamp in particular does not do that, so you know, you just have to prepare. But I would say if you are a beginner and this is the program that you want to take, they have plenty of resources on their website for you to learn and catch up to the point where you need to be before actually applying for the bootcamp. So the ratio of women and men in the program, this is a great question. This was like the first thing that I looked for when I was first in class. The first thing I looked at is how many women and men are there, and just like in general, like what does the diversity look like in this program. I wanted to see how many people of color were in there, how many women and men. So I would say in my cohort, there's multiple cohorts that are like going through the same timeline, like are on the same timeline as me right now. But from my cohort, I would say we have like 1/3 of women and 2/3 men. So there's not a ton of women, but there's enough of us that like we hear, like you can see us, we're not like drowning in the background or anything like that. And I would also say, like, to add to that, there is like a really good mix of like racial and all those types of diversity, like not just racial but gender, and like a diversity of age and background and things like that, which I really love. It makes it interesting and it keeps it fun, and I've really enjoyed getting to know the people in my cohort. They're really awesome people. What is something you wish you knew before you started that you could have better prepared for? This is a good question. I really wish I would have practiced more of like the data structure and algorithm thing. It wasn't something that we touched a lot on in the first 6 weeks, but now we do it every single day. Like when I log off of this, I'm going to jump on and have to do a data structure and algorithm problem with my partner for this week. So we do them every day for an hour in the morning. And that's not my strong suit. I don't love them. They're really difficult. But just kind of trying to stay positive and learn that it's just a learning experience, and I'm learning still. And it's okay to not understand them right now. Is the bootcamp I'm in a regular one, or is it more specialized? Like I said, this one was one that kind of started in a more advanced place than most other boot camps I have seen. And one thing I really admire about that is that, like, the basic stuff that you can definitely just learn from like on your own pace, from videos and things like that. Like, they don't waste any of the instructor's time teaching you those basics. You learn those basics on your own time, at your own pace. And then when you are in class, it's the intense pace of like learning the more complicated things that really you need someone to guide you through. So I like that a lot better. Is it a more specialized boot camp? I don't know that I would say that. It's basic software engineering. But I think one thing that is different about this program is that it focuses solely on JavaScript. I have not learned any language outside of JavaScript. So JavaScript, and we're just building on technologies within JavaScript. So, using SQLize to work through databases, using Node and what else is there? Express and things like that. Those types of things. We're just building those technologies on top of our foundation of JavaScript. I really loved that part of the program, and it is a big reason why I decided to go with this program, because this is a process of maybe 16 weeks, and it's hard to learn multiple languages and have to switch between those things in that short amount of time. So being able to become an expert in one language and understanding lots of technologies that correspond with that language, to me just feels like a better use of my time. So yeah. What is the usual amount of work that they give? So this is a work-based program, the one I'm in. I haven't had a day where I didn't do a project, honestly. Oops. So every day, the basic structure is that, in the beginning, how we started is that we would have lectures in the morning, then have a lab, which is an individual project, little workshop that you would work on. And then we would probably have pair programming in the afternoons, which would be a project that you had to build with somebody else, working through whatever it was that we learned that day. And then we had a checkpoint, which is basically a homework assignment that was due once a week on Sunday. So they opened it up on Tuesday. You had all week till Sunday to turn it in, and it was on the topics that we learned that week. So yeah, that's basically how it was. And the homeworks definitely were projects that would take a couple of days to work through in the beginning. So like I said, you were working in the mornings and the afternoons while you were in class, basically the whole time. How does bootcamp differ from attending something like online learning, like Treehouse, like Team Treehouse? How does it differ? The biggest difference, the most noticeable difference for me, is the incorporation of the collaborative effort. I'm not learning by myself anymore. I'm not learning just by watching a video. It's very much so interactive. I am, getting called on in class to answer questions. I am working with a partner to accomplish, some goal, whether it's finishing a project or working through some problem. So there's a higher level of accountability there and just collaboration. I'm very much so someone that learns from watching other people. I can pick up something just by watching somebody else. And so this has been really helpful to be working with other people, see their thought processes and see how they work through problems and how they accomplish the same goal has been really helpful for me to learn different ways of doing things. And I would say that is definitely the biggest piece, is like, you're not an island as a learner, as someone who's learning how to code. You're not alone, and you shouldn't be alone in that learning process. So I really have enjoyed that part for sure. Yeah. Which week was the most difficult, and was it a constant challenge? Okay. So I would definitely say, the week that I was in when I was like bawling my eyes out, that was probably week 2 or 3. That was really difficult for me. That was a difficult week. We were really deep into back-end things, and there was a huge learning curve for me in learning the back end. You guys know I learned the front end and was pretty comfortable with a lot of front end concepts, but the back end was like a whole new world to me, and there was a huge learning curve, and I felt weird about it because it was like, I felt like my colleagues, my cohort members were like picking it up so much quicker and easier than I was, and I was really discouraged by that. But at this point in the journey, I'm now, like I said, on week 7, week 8. Now the back end's actually my favorite part of the projects that we build. So I mean, it's a process, but I would definitely say that the first phase, our junior phase, the first part of intensive, it was back to back to back. You're learning constantly, and that was tough. But now in senior phase, it's more of like, we are building projects as a team. We're learning how to work in settings that would be very similar to working in a real job. So the pace is a lot different. It's definitely not as much of an intense pace, but we still have a lot going on. So we're just taking it one day at a time, basically. Would bootcamp be better if they didn't rush? That's a good question, but I think that for me, I don't mind that it's a rush. I don't mind that it's like, they're constantly hammering content at us, because I think that's kind of the point of a boot camp. I think that's the point of boot camp, and I feel like it would take so much longer, and this is not something that I would want to do for a whole year or like longer. The point isn't for it to be like regular school. It's for you to go from point A to point B in a quick but efficient and effective manner. So it's necessary. It's a necessary evil, basically. Exact order that I learned all of the tech. So we started off week 1, we touched on HTML, CSS, the DOM. What else? The basics of like DOM manipulation and stuff like that. Week 2, we dived into routers and Express and APIs and SQL, PostgreSQL to be exact, SQLize. Week 3, we jumped back and we learned React. Basically that whole week, then we learned React. We learned like thunks, React thunks, Redux thunks. We learned those. That was basically it. And then from there, we've just been building like little things like authentication and security onto the structures that we've now kind of been learning and been working through. Did you have enough time to practice the concepts? Absolutely. I would say if I had to like put a percentage on it, I would say maybe about 20% of the time we were in lectures learning concepts, and the other 80% of the time we were completing workshops, labs, homework, projects to solidify our understanding of that. And what's great about that is that like, because most of class time was devoted to those types of workshops, I could always, ask a fellow or an instructor for help on anything to get over any speed bumps I might have come across with my partner or by myself on anything that we learned. So that wasn't too bad. Everything except homeworks. We weren't allowed to get help for homeworks. Okay, so now getting more into like just how I've kept up with everything. What keeps me grounded while going through this process? So the first thing is I had to learn how to find little moments in every day to just bring me joy. And that sounds like a little corny, but like, you know, taking walks on my lunch break instead of just sitting and stressing about schoolwork, you know, giving myself a few hours over the weekend, even though I had homework and things to do, to like go see friends and like hang out with people, you know, just go hang out, be with my family, do whatever. Taking naps, doing a lot more self-care. So like for me, I wasn't like really someone that indulged in self-care a lot, but for me, doing little things every single day that like I would consider to be self-care, like even just getting up in the morning and like taking time to do my makeup was like an act of self-care for me. Just like it's honestly little things. I started buying myself flowers every week as just like a little something to look forward to, so that I can remember to kind of like stay focused, stay grounded. And also like the number one thing that I didn't even think of was just staying in prayer, like just praying, reading my Bible. Like those are things that are really important to me. And so like remembering that I'm not alone in this journey and that actually I'm being strengthened to take it and to complete it, that's super important to me. And that has really been helpful. And also like I have a really great support system of friends and family and loved ones that are there for me and check in on me and look out for me throughout this process. So I don't feel like I'm alone in any sense of the word with this process. And even you all on here on Instagram, like when I'm on stories venting and things like that, like you've all been so amazing, and I'm so grateful that I have such an awesome community. You guys are awesome. How do I stay motivated? Pretty much all in the same, like that's how I have to do. I do have days where I just don't feel like it, don't feel like learning, don't feel like doing anything, but it is really inspiring to see like people in my cohort like pressing forward and continuing. So that definitely motivates me. Does boot camp prepare you for the workforce? Absolutely. In fact, the phase that I've started and throughout the next 5.5 weeks, I actually have a ton to do on the career development side. You know, there's a lot of like assignments that aren't technical, so resume building and setting up a LinkedIn account and those types of things. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that you know, kind of unfold. Is it worth the time and money? I got a scholarship to go, so I cannot speak to the money, but I would definitely have considered it even if I didn't have that scholarship. And if you are someone that like really wants to work in tech and have like that full-time job, like I do think it's worth it, especially when you compare it to traditional education. Like I would have much rather done this and paid whatever, you know, the tuition is for this, which I think is about $18,000. Would have much rather did $18,000 than all the tens of thousands that I spent on my 4-year degree. So after boot camp, am I going straight to a job or an internship? I haven't decided yet. I would love to get like a junior level position at like a really cool company that allows me to work remotely. At this moment, that's like kind of where I'm feeling, but I have not decided yet, and mostly just because I'm trying to keep my options open, because I know that I don't know just like the sheer amount of jobs that are out there that I might be good at and might really enjoy. So I'm just kind of keeping my options open right now. Any myths about boot camp? I would say that like the biggest myth is that your learning stops after boot camp. Because even like right now, I'm still in the process, but like there is no way I would personally be able to keep up if I didn't continue the learning after class, on the weekends, continue to continue to learn on my own, as well as like with my peers. So and I know that that's going to continue, because the more I learn in boot camp, the more I realize that I don't know anything. Like, I'm just scratching the surface. Like, I still don't know anything. I can build a full crud application, and I still don't feel like I could ever like begin to like make it in the real world. Not yet anyway. That's how I feel. So I know I'm gonna have to continue to push myself and learn and research and educate myself. So that's the biggest myth, is that bootcamp isn't end all be all, because it's definitely not. Overall success tips, man, documenting this journey has been really great for me. Just like even looking back on like my crying video, or like even before that, like looking back, I realized like I've learned so much, and that's super rewarding to be able to see that. And also just to be able to kind of like for career development, it's really important to have like a presence online to present yourself and show that you're a real person. So that's something that's really cool. So document your journey, and also find a good solid support system if you decide that this is something that you want to do, because you're going to need it. And sleep. Don't pull all-nighters. Don't try to not get your rest. Definitely sleep. All right, guys, I have 5 minutes before I have to log on and do this algorithm problem. Whew. Pray for me, y'all, but I love you. I'm rooting for you and can't wait to see you in the next video.